The hand goes up before the lecturer finishes his sentence. Not tentatively. Not the half-raised, look-away gesture of someone who is not sure they want to be called on. All the way up. Confident. Deliberate. The hand of someone who has been waiting for exactly this moment and is not going to let it pass. The lecturer pauses. Looks at the young man in the third row. Something moves behind his eyes, not annoyance, not quite. Something more complicated than that. Recognition, maybe. The particular alertness of a man who has spent years waiting to see if anyone in any of his classes would ask the question that this student is clearly about to ask. Yes. The lecturer asked. Sir, from recent findings, it is believed that the Igbo clan still remains one of the 3 major tribes in Nigeria. It is said that an Igbo man can be found in any and every part of the world. My question is this: how did a group said to have been annihilated grow so big to become one of the most affluent tribes in Africa? If the Igbos were massacred, shouldn't they be the poorest, least populated tribe in Nigeria? Zimuzor asked. The classroom goes very still. Not the stillness of boredom. The stillness of people who have just heard something said out loud that everyone knew but nobody was supposed to say. Students shift in their seats. Someone coughs. Someone else finds something very interesting to look at on their desk. The lecturer stands at the front of the room and looks at Zimuzor for a long moment. His face gives nothing away. His voice, when he speaks, is carefully measured, the voice of a man who has learned, through long experience, exactly how much truth is safe to speak in a room with thin walls and uncertain loyalties. This is as far as the state curriculum allows us to teach on the Civil War. Anything outside of this would be putting my job at risk. The lecturer replied. He holds Zimuzor's gaze for just a beat longer than necessary. However, if you would genuinely like to know more about the war and what happened after it, meet me at the staff quarters tonight. 10 o'clock. The lecturer added. Then he turns back to the board. Lesson over. Next topic. Zimuzor writes down the time. He does not write it in his notebook, he writes it in his mind, in the place where important things go that cannot be lost or forgotten. 10 o'clock. Staff quarters. Tonight. He is there at 9:55. The living room of Mr. Namdi's quarters is small and honest. A torn cushion on which the lecturer sits. A wooden chair which Zimuzor is offered. A bookshelf against one wall that holds more volumes than the room seems capable of containing, pressed together, some lying sideways on top of others, organized by a system that makes sense only to the man who built it. The light is low. The evening is cool. And Mr. Namdi looks at his student across the small space between them with the expression of a man who is deciding, right now, in real time, how much to trust what he sees. He decides to trust it. So, what was it you wanted to know? Mr. Namdi asked. Everything. But I'd start with, what happened after the war? How are the Igbos still one of the most populated and affluent groups on the planet after a war that was supposed to annihilate them? Zimuzor asked. Before we talk about after the war, we need to talk about before it. We need to know who these people are. Where they come from. Because you cannot understand what happened to a people if you do not first understand what those people were before it happened to them. Mr. Namdi replied. Zimuzor leans forward. Then tell me. Who are we? Where do we come from? Zimuzor asked. Mr. Namdi is quiet for a moment. Then he stands, crosses to the bookshelf, and runs his fingers slowly along the spines of the books, the gesture of a man who knows exactly where everything is and is taking his time anyway, because the moment before a revelation is worth savoring. He pulls out a book. Holds it for a second. Then hands it across. In there contains everything you need to know about the Igbo people. And what needs to be done. Mr. Namdi replied. Zimuzor takes the book. Reads the cover. Our Genesis. Zimuzor asked. AWA Genesis. It is an acronym. African West African Genesis. Read it tonight. Read all of it. And when you are done, you will understand why I could not answer your question in that classroom. You will understand why nobody answers that question in any classroom. And you will understand what needs to be done. Mr. Namdi replied. What needs to be done? He says it quietly, almost to himself. The phrase sitting in his mouth like something with weight. What needs to be done? Zimuzor muttered to himself. He leaves the staff quarters at 10:30 with the book under his arm and something new moving in his chest. Not excitement exactly. Something quieter and more serious than excitement. The feeling of standing at the edge of something large, knowing you are about to step forward, not entirely sure what is on the other side. He goes back to his room. Locks the door. Lights the candle on his desk, the electricity has been out since morning, and opens to the first page. He does not stop reading. The book takes him back, all the way back, to a shoreline where a man named Eri steps off a boat and throws his arms wide and says at last, the land of the sun. It takes him through the ancient Igbo civilization, the bronze casters of Igbo Ukwu, the democratic governance under the Irako tree, the concept of chi, the philosophy of Omachukwu. It takes him through the arrival of the colonial powers and the deliberate dismantling of everything the Igbo had built, the rewriting of their history, the replacement of their spiritual framework, the systematic erosion of their identity until a people who were once certain of exactly who they were began to look at themselves through someone else's eyes. And then it takes him through the war. The coups. Aburi. The betrayals. The food blockade. The surrender. The 20 pounds. The seized properties. The locked out opportunities. Everything that volume 1 of this series has laid out, Zimuzor reads it all by candlelight in a small hostel room while his phone rings unanswered on the bed beside him. Dabareki is calling. He does not pick up. Mama is calling. He does not pick up. Because what is happening inside him right now is too large and too fragile to be interrupted. Something is cracking open. Something that has been sealed shut for his entire life, sealed by a curriculum designed to keep him ignorant, by a society that benefits from his not knowing, by the accumulated weight of a history that was deliberately kept from him, is breaking open now in the candlelight. He reads about the scattering. The sun's going out. The prophecy spoken under the tree. And for the first time in his life, the restlessness that has lived in him since he was old enough to feel it, that nameless, directionless anger, that sense of something missing, something owed, something taken, has a name. It is not restlessness. It is purpose. His eyes are wet. He does not wipe them. He keeps reading. By the time he closes the book it is past 3 in the morning. The candle has burned down to almost nothing. He sits in the near dark for a long time without moving, the way a person sits after something significant has happened, when the mind needs time to catch up to what the heart already knows. Then he opens the book again and goes back to the beginning. Because once is not enough. Because this is not the kind of book you read, it is the kind of book you are changed by. And Zimuzor Anyanwu, 20-something years old, sitting in a box-size hostel room in Bauchi State with a dying candle and a phone he has stopped answering, is being changed. Completely. Irrevocably. In ways he cannot yet articulate but can absolutely feel. He went to Bauchi State Polytechnic to get a degree. He is not going to get a degree. What he is going to get is something that no institution in Nigeria was ever going to give him. Something that the curriculum was specifically designed to prevent him from finding. Something far more powerful than a certificate, far more dangerous than a diploma, far more disruptive than anything his lecturers, except one, ever intended to put into his hands. He had gone to school looking for a degree. He left with something far more dangerous. The truth. If episode 9 reminded you of a moment when something clicked, when you learned something that changed how you saw yourself or your world, drop it in the comments below. We want to hear it. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss episode 10, where Zimuzor makes the most consequential decision of his life, a decision that will cost him his relationship, his mother's trust, and the future everyone expected him to have. Share this episode with someone who needs to find their own AWA Genesis moment. Like this video and help the algorithm carry this story to the people who need it most. We will see you in episode 10.